6:29, good morning to you. Watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Now, I know that probably if you are in bed having a nice cup of tea, you can spread all the Sunday papers out in front of you. Or get down on the floor. That's the only way to read them, really, isn't it? Shall we have a look at the front pages? The Times focuses on the bridge blast that has opened up Crimea. It says the landmark funded by the Kremlin gives Ukraine hope that it can retake the occupied peninsula.
The Observer leads with that bridge, saying Putin has been dealt a bitter blow.
Now, this is one interesting headline. Sadistic Gove told, stop plots or let in Starmer. Who would have thought Michael Gove was sadistic? But the paper seems to think so.
Sunday Express has heads down and charge attempts for the PM to revive the economy.
Truss tells MPs to unite or face disaster. That's according to the Sunday Telegraph, as MPs prepare to return to Parliament this week.
For the Sunday Mirror, Peter Tobin's ex-wife gives an exclusive interview to them as the serial killer takes secrets of any extra victims, any other victims he may have had, to his grave.
And let's look at the Sun on Sunday. Spoken to the ex-girlfriend of former Strictly dancer AJ Pritchard, telling the paper she's devastated that he's found love elsewhere.
Oh dear. What becomes of the broken-hearted?
Well, Strictly gives a headline every week, doesn't it? At least one.
Let's go through the papers now. Joining us, the author and journalist Susan Holder and former special advisor to Boris Johnson, Jack Sellers. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Nice to see you. Susan, let's start with the Mail on Sunday, should we? And Michael Gove and the Prime Minister.
Yes, so as you just read out, he has been dubbed a sadist, apparently by somebody briefing for the Prime Minister, because it's just what we want to find out about. It's just what we want to hear, that they're all infighting and they're all falling out. And apparently just before the Tory conference, she had Michael Gove in for tea, which people thought was a weird thing to spend her time on, but that's what she decided to do. But now they're all stabbing each other in the back. How joyous it is to find out that that is what's going on, that that's a priority, and it's apparently all going to be Gove's fault if Labour get in.
So why are they calling him sadistic?
Well, who knows? That's just the word that they use.
Just because he's briefing or he's plotting?
Yes, there's plots afoot, and that I presume that is politics. Everyone's kind of manoeuvring and trying to get into position, but somebody has now dubbed him, and it makes a good headline, which presumably the person who briefed knew that it would. I'm sorry to be so cynical. It's very early in the morning to be so cynical, but I'm a bit fed up, really, of hearing about all this, because this isn't what they should be concentrating on. This isn't something that even should be the top story. We need to know what they're going to be doing about what needs to be done and who's doing what, and to kind of make it all about the infighting in the Tory party. Again, has nobody learned anything?
They don't. I mean, this is the issue, Jam. I mean, the Sunday Telegraph's got something sort of similar in a sense. You know, this warning from the PM that, people need to back her or it's all going to fall apart. Yeah. But it is everyone with an ounce of common sense says, well, you just need to get on with it now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But sorry, I don't come with any better news. But the Sunday Telegraph, as you've alluded to, comes with the headline: Truss tells MPs unite or face disaster. But this is a common theme across all the Sunday papers. This is not unusual for a government, to sort of get ahead of the week. But yeah, Tory infighting is the story of the day. It's actually the quite remarkable thing, not just from the Telegraph, going across the other papers, is that Number 10 and the government and the party itself has actually gone on a mass sort of agenda, really, to sort of get the party all united. So, yeah, in the Telegraph, we've got this headline about Number 10, how Truss is going to try and promote that this week. We've got a opinion piece from Penny Mordaunt, who's in the government in the Sun.
Who was critical of some of Liz Truss's stuff only a few days ago.
So this is the interesting thing. So we've got Penny Mordaunt in the Telegraph, who's doing a piece saying that the government needs to unite and the party needs to unite. We've got Suella Braverman in the Sun. We've got the Environment Secretary in the Express. We've got Nadeem Zahawi in the Mail on Sunday. What's interesting is that actually, two of these people, as you say, being Suella and Penny Mordaunt, were two of the government members themselves who only in the last week, 10 days, were part of the briefing against each other. I don't know how much hope Liz Truss has got of uniting the party if she can't even unite her own cabinet.
If she couldn't do it during conference, which is, that's the vehicle actually for uniting the party, then it seems a bit pathetic that they're still trying to work at uniting the party now, weeks after the conference.
Yeah, no.
And they're also looking to displace blame, so that if anything goes wrong, or if, I mean, we're not even anywhere near an election anyway, but they're already saying, well, if we lose, it's not because of our policies, it's not because we haven't done anything right, it's because of all these people plotting again, which is absolute rubbish. Because obviously if they're going to lose the election, they'll lose the election because they haven't done what people who vote want them to do.
Are we being a little bit preemptive? Because where's that email? Oh, Joan. Morning, Joan. Says 2025 is a long time away.
A week is a long time in politics.
Lots can happen before we get to vote in a general election.
Absolutely.
And she's right. Well, it'd be 2024 at the latest, won't it? But I mean, you know, get your point.
We'll have had 3 more prime ministers by then.
Oh, don't.
The remarkable thing about this week coming, and the newspaper sort of alludes to this, is what we all forget is that this week coming is actually only going to be the second cabinet meeting that Liz Truss has held with her cabinet, and the second Prime Minister's questions against Keir Starmer. Given that all that's happened in the last month, you feel like this has been going on for a year. But yeah, this is only going to be the second time she's been in Parliament in front of Keir Starmer, second time her cabinet have come together, and she's got a big job with getting them all together, uniting them.
Oh, dear me.
Well, good luck with that.
Well, yeah, honestly.
Well, that's the trouble, isn't it? You get exhausted
cats.
by it, don't you? And it's not a good look.
No.
I mean, if there were a general election, it's just not a good look. Who wants to vote for a party that seems to be so much about infighting at the moment?
I know.
Sort themselves out. Susan, to the Sunday Mirror, Peter Tobin
Yes.
is dead.
He is.
Can't shed a tear.
No, and certainly the person not shedding a tear is his wife or ex-wife, who said he was a monster, and yes, she obviously doesn't feel anything about the fact he's dead other than relief, I think. But again, with serial killers, I always think we shouldn't name them too many times because they would like that. And I think people's names that we should perhaps say out loud are the 2 people that we know he murdered. And there's many people that they think he once apparently boasted of killing up to 48 women.
48?
I didn't know that.
Which is shocking, chilling, and horrific. But this is what that's what apparently he boasted. That doesn't mean he did, but there are lots of unsolved murders that they would like to put at his door. And obviously that's the bad thing about him being dead, is that he's gone to his grave with secrets.
Yes, but he was never going to tell anyone,
was
he?
No, he wasn't, but he has gone with us. But the people that we do know, he was serving a life sentence for raping and murdering a Polish student, Angelica Kluk, and also a 15-year-old schoolgirl he murdered called Vicky Hamilton. And I always think, with these sort of cases, it's the women's names that should be mentioned, and we shouldn't ever mention his name.
No, I quite agree.
Agree.
No, I mean, it's just awful. These are very evil people.
It would appear so, yeah.
You know, there's a lot he's got away with,
Yeah.
sadly.
Yeah.
Which doesn't help those families involved
doesn't
who are sort
at
of
all.
missing their...
By the sound of it, not that I stick it out there to be any comfort to anyone, but by the sound of it, he had a pretty grim, dismal death. He was in pain, suffering.
Well, there you go.
Might make some people feel better about it, I guess.
Jack, to the Sunday Express, there's been all this controversy around Conor Burns, the MP, of course, and now the information has come out that the person who's complained about him, which has led to him losing his job in government and having the whip withdrawn, wasn't the person who was involved in this, whatever was going on, but someone who spotted him with his hand on somebody's knee.
Yeah, this is
obviously highly controversial.
Going back to our previous conversation, there's no end, unfortunately, at the moment to the issues within the party which I had worked in myself. But so this story alludes to, as you say, Conor Burns, who during party conference apparently was seen in a bar drunk, allegedly with his hand on the thigh of a young male. That's what the story reads. What's interesting in an unusual way, just to put it this way, is that the reason he's been suspended, according to all the reports, is actually that it wasn't the person who he had his hand on the leg with who made the complaints. It was a third-party viewer. So that's quite unusual in itself, in the sense that...
Is having your hand... I mean, look, I'm not trying to preempt any of this, but is having your hand on someone's thigh in a bar a a serious offence, which is how this has been done.
Not if they haven't complained about
Yeah,
it.
that's the unusual thing about this. Well, preempting anything in this, because the person involved, they could be, but until they come forward and put their side of the case across, you don't know. I'm not sure how someone who's sitting on the other side of the room can say that that's not legit or that's not appropriate.
Yeah, but it's also maybe the terminology. It's just the phraseology we're using, or that they've told us.
Yeah.
It may have been more than that. It may have been much more than that.
But going back to the Mel B sort of intervention,
yes,
which
yes,
is
no,
really interesting.
That's interesting because Mel B, she's former Spice Girl.
Former Spice Girl.
And she was at the Tory Party conference as part of one of her campaigns.
Yes.
And she tweeted, after Conor Burns tweeted, hey, I've been, I've had to resign or I've been sacked. She then tweeted, oh yeah, and what? And he said in his tweet that he didn't know what he was being alleged to have done.
Yes.
And Mel B, tweeted, oh yes, is that right? Because can't you remember what you said to me in the lift?
Yeah, so really you're shocked about this complaint. Let me remind you of what you said to me in the lift. But we were talking about this just before.
And then she doesn't remind him.
Yeah, but the thing is, so
And
Mel
she
B...
doesn't tell any of us.
This is a bit disingenuous, really, in many ways, because Mel B has obviously weighed in, very high-profile person, was obviously going to get huge storylines off the back of this, and now that she's been probed further on, what was this? You have to sort of come forward with a bit more information. Apparently, her spokesperson has said that she's not going to be commenting further. So there's a lot of the pot stirring here.
And Conor Burns is saying he's never met her.
Yeah, Conor Burns saying he's never met her.
He believes he's never met her.
Well.
Yeah, but either way, look, regardless, at the moment, innocent until proven guilty, or massive thing in our country. Really, it's a bit unfair to come in so high profile to
and then
to slander his name without following up on the back of it. But this could be one to roll out in the coming days.
But you see, the problem is with all of this, and again, we're not saying whether he's done anything wrong or not because we just don't know. We haven't got enough detail. But the Sunday Express this morning, and they've got the Mel B thing on the front. But their little headline is, what did shamed Tory MP say to Spice Girl Mel B in the lift? Well, shamed, but that's the reality of it, isn't it? He has been shamed, but he may not have actually done anything wrong.
Yeah. And also, to be fair to Mel B, she was at the Tory Party conference, as far as I understand it, to talk about her campaigning about domestic abuse,
yes.
which is not mentioned in these articles, which is a real shame, because it would have been great if she was able to come talk about that a bit more and get more attention for that, because it's a very worthy cause that she is doing a lot of good work on, but that isn't now what she's got the headlines for. It's this, which may not have been her intention, but that's what's happened, and I think that's a real shame.
I just wish people would think before they tweet as well.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, on both sides, on all sides, it's tweets that very often set off these hairs running, and they takes on a life.
Well, we know as journalists that what you put out there, you have to be very careful about what you say, and that you have to check your sources, and you have to be as accurate as you can, and you can't just go. But people who use social media now, Twitter, Facebook, anything else, don't understand that they're publishing, that actually what they're saying is they're as they should be, and they need to be as responsible as any publishing house. It's not like saying it to somebody in a pub, and that's what they think it is, but it isn't. What we all say behind closed doors to our friends or whatever is one thing, and what you put out there is another. And once you've done that, you have to take responsibility for it, and if you don't, I think people are threatened now with various things, and I think they perhaps should. They should actually start bringing charges against people who do that, because it is so damaging and dangerous.
Well, the Tory party will, whilst investigating Conor Burns anyway, are going to have to speak to her, aren't they?
Yeah, of course they're going to have to follow up on these comments. But yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's very rare that people come to the sort of defence of politicians in this instance, but politicians have become a bit of an easy attack, and it becomes damaging for the party if the party isn't seen to take immediate action and very high-profile action to suspend them and sack them and all this sort of stuff. But at the heart of this, and at the moment I'm treating it innocent until proven guilty, these are people, they have careers, we've got to give them time and the space and the freedom for the process to do its due course, to find out the real outcomes for both the person who's been accused and for the potential victims.
Really good point. I mean, it's not just politicians. It's actually anybody in the public eye could be attacked by somebody else, and then you have this culture of there's no smoke without fire about anybody, and that's so dangerous. And like you say, you've just used the phrase. It's used very little now in society. Innocent till proven guilty, and that is the law.
Look at that headline: shamed Tory MP.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not shamed at the moment. It's under investigation.
He probably feels it, whether he's done anything or not.
Yes, he must feel that he is being shamed without proper process, as you
Yeah,
said.
and this is something which I think the media and stuff are actually attaching this a lot more to the Conservative Party because of we had the roll-in sort of situation with Chris Pincher and Neil Parish, who notoriously watched the tractor situation in Parliament, but media and opposition parties and others have all sort of attached this to the Conservative Party. But it's a difficult one. The media have sort of got to do their job here and sort of got to take due diligence and care for the individuals involved.
Yeah, that's a fair
Which
point.
we have tried to do today.
We have indeed. Let's have a look at the Sunday Times, Susan, and this bridge. I mean, this crucial infrastructure actually between the Russian mainland and Crimea, which of course they annexed in 2014, much to the silence of the rest of the world, pretty much. And now this explosion, bomb, whatever it was, which has obviously been a huge blow to Putin.
The problem, it is a blow to Putin, and it does seem to be, a big event that has happened, but we actually don't know quite what's gone on, who is at the bottom of it. Ukraine haven't, it seems,
explicitly.
But I mean, I do worry about all of this. Obviously, in the taxi coming in this morning, I said, I'm going on GBNEWS and we're going to be talking about things in the newspapers. What's the one thing that you worries you the most, or you've got on it? I know there's a lot to choose from, but what would you say? And he said, the war.
That's
the
interesting.
war. And I just thought, yes, and I do think, again, we have such a responsibility that we talk about all the things that are happening, and the words nuclear war and Armageddon are being thrown about, and it's so scary for people, and yet we don't actually. Is there 4 people in the world that know what's going on? And unfortunately, it's not us 4.
Well, and Jack, very quickly, you were looking at the Telegraph about the Putin preparing to sort of step up his assault on Ukraine as a retaliation.
Yeah, this is quite unusual, actually, and this attaches to those comments. So the headline is Putin plots revenge after bridge explosion. It talks about how he's preparing to step up his assault after the explosion on the bridge, which we're talking about. But it's interesting because Ukraine are not claiming credit for this, even though there was a lot of,
enjoying it.
Yeah, social media sort of, enjoying the moment sort of thing. But Russia themselves have only actually blamed it on a lorry explosion. They haven't said that was the result of Ukraine. So
But they wouldn't want to admit to
They wouldn't want, of course they wouldn't want to admit to it. But I completely agree in terms of the hyperbole around this, in terms of, the second paragraph of this story says the Kremlin previously warned any attack on the Kerch Strait would be a red line and trigger Judgment Day. I mean, this is very serious language, very worrying language for the public. And I agree, there's only going to be a handful of people in the world who actually know what went on here, whether there was some sort of dark arts at play, whether it was just a lorry explosion or whatever. I doubt that's the case. But I do think the media, again, going back to media responsibility, they have a job here to sort of play this straight. It's very interesting to see, Elon Musk sort of riding into this argument in the past few weeks. We won't get into that, that's a longer story. But, there are people out there who recognise the stakes are very high with what we're talking about.
But we keep talking about this, but at the same time, and I don't want to give Putin any ideas, I'm sure he's got loads of his own, but I just keep thinking, I don't know why everyone's worried about nuclear war in a way, because if it's going to happen, there really is no point worrying about it. But at the same time, he doesn't even need to do that, does he? If he just switched our internet off, the whole country would come to a complete standstill. And I'm sure he's thought of that. I mean, we are so beholden to everything now. You can't buy things in shops with cash. You can't do anything without... I couldn't get here today without using an app to try and kind of... it's just... we are so silly that we've got ourselves in a situation where nothing functions without the internet and computers and everything else. And I just think any disruption in that service, and nobody knows what to do. No. And that frightens me actually more than nuclear war, because I think I see that actually happening to me around right now.
Yeah, that does need to be looked at. Look, Susan, thank you very much indeed. Jack, congratulations on being the first person in the history of these newspaper reviews to use the word hyperbole.
Thank you.
Yes.
I thank you.
We should
We'll try and
celebrate.
get the good word in next time.
Can you get a really good word?
And it's all before 7 a.m. as well.
Yeah, it's very impressive, if you don't mind me saying.
It's no journalistic exercise, though, that when I was training to be a newspaper reporter, you'd be given a really, really difficult word, and it was your job to get it.
Do you never do that? Do you never ask people to kind of text in and then see if you can get the word in? You try that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Very careful. We get an old dictionary out.
I used to do that. You always squeeze it into a weather forecast.
Yes.
That's what I used to do. Somehow.
Watch out for it then.